Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Yesterday's Sports on the Sports History Network. With baseball season in full swing, I thought I'd take a break from my usual topics of weightlifting and football and talk about a baseball team that sometimes gets overlooked. The 1968 Detroit Tigers don't seem to get talked about as often as some other great teams in Major League Baseball history. Perhaps it's because they didn't win 2 or 3 World Series in a row, like many other teams have. It could also be because the team's success was somewhat overshadowed by the attention directed at their pitcher, Denny McLain, who became the first Major League Baseball pitcher to win 30 games in a season since 1934. McLain also had a 1.96 ERA. I was 6 years old in 1968, so I can't say I remember a lot about that baseball season, but there are some things I remember. Number 1, I started playing in the Little League. Number 2, my team, the Yankees, finished the season with a respectable 83-79 record, albeit 20 games out of first place. Number 3, Mickey Mantle retired at the end of the season. And number 4, I started collecting baseball cards, which is where I learned about a lot of the Major League players. After winning their second World Series trophy in 1945, the Tigers were reasonably successful for the next 22 seasons, having 14 winning seasons, but they could never finish higher than second place. In 1967, they finished just 1 game behind the Red Sox. The Tigers started the 1968 season with 9 wins and only 1 loss. By May 10th, they had cooled off considerably, but their 17-9 record was good enough for first place, where they remained for the rest of the season. By the All-Star Game break on July 9th, Detroit had an impressive 55-28 record. 4 Tigers players were on the American League All-Star team: catcher Bill Freehan, pitcher Denny McLain, third baseman Don Wirt, and left fielder Willie Horton. But after the All-Star break, the Tigers looked only slightly above average, going 35-26 from July 11th to September 8th. Nevertheless, they still had a 9-game lead on the second-place Baltimore Orioles. But on September 9th, the Tigers began pulling away from the rest of the pack and won 11 games in a row. They finished the season with 103 wins and 59 losses, 12 games ahead of the Orioles. Willie Horton led the team in home runs with 36. Horton also had 85 RBIs and batted .285. Bill Freehan and first baseman Norm Cash both belted 25 home runs, while right fielder Jim Northup led the team in RBIs with 90 and hit 21 home runs. The 33-year-old future Hall of Famer Al Kaline missed 2 months of the season with a broken arm, but he played in 102 games and led the team in batting average, hitting .287. These stats may not seem that impressive by today's standards, But remember that 1968 was the year of the pitcher. Of course, McLain led the pitching staff, winning 31 games and losing only 6. Mickey Lolich went 17-9 on the season. The Tigers would face the defending World Series champion St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. The Cardinals finished the season with a 97-65 record, and they too had a dominant pitcher in Bob Gibson, who went 22-9 on the season with an incredible 1.12 ERA. Other than both having great pitching, the teams couldn't have been more different. The Tigers hit 185 home runs, while the Cardinals hit only 73. The Cardinals had 110 stolen bases, while the Tigers had only 26. Game 1 was a classic matchup between the two best pitchers in baseball. While McLain did not pitch poorly, he struggled in the 4th inning, allowing 2 walks and 2 hits. He also gave up a solo home run to Lou Brock in the 7th inning. The Tigers hitters could do little against Bob Gibson, who allowed only 5 hits and struck out 17 batters. Final score, St. Louis 4, Detroit 0. Mickey Lolich pitched Game 2 for Detroit, allowing only 6 hits and 1 run. Lolich also hit a home run, the only one he hit in his entire career. Willie Horton and Norm Cash also hit home runs. Second baseman Dick McAuliffe knocked in 2 runs with a timely single in the 6th inning. Al Kaline scored a run in the 7th inning, and their final 2 runs came in the 9th inning with the bases loaded walks to Don Wirt and Mickey Lolich. Detroit won easily 8-1, and it was on to Tiger Stadium for Game 3. A 2-run home run by Al Kaline gave the Tigers the early lead in the 3rd inning, but the Cardinals scored 4 runs in the 5th inning. First, Curt Flood hit a double to drive in a run off of starting pitcher Earl Wilson. Wilson then let up another hit, and manager Mayo Smith replaced him with reliever Pat Dobson. Dobson fared no better, giving up a 3-run blast to Tim McCarver. Dick McAuliffe hit a home run for the Tigers to cut the Cardinals' lead to 4-3. But in the 7th inning, Orlando Cepeda had a 3-run blast for St. Louis to give them a 7-3 victory. Denny McLain got the start in Game 4, but a 35-minute rain delay affected him. After Lou Brock led the game off with a home run, Mike Shannon added an RBI single, and St. Louis was off to an early 2-0 lead. The Cardinals added 2 more runs in the 3rd inning on a Tim McCarver triple and a Mike Shannon double. McLain walked the batter to start the 4th inning. Then the umpires stopped the game for 1 hour and 15 minutes due to more rain. After the delay, McLain did not return, but Bob Gibson did, and he hit a home run off reliever Joe Sparma. Then Lou Brock hit a triple and scored on a ground out by Roger Maris. The Cardinals had a 6-0 lead, but a home run by right fielder Jim Northup gave the Tigers hope. But Gibson was almost unhittable for the remainder of the game, while Detroit's pitching continued to struggle. In the 8th inning, they walked Gibson with the bases loaded, and then Lou Brock hit a double to drive in 3 more runs. The Cardinals won 10-1. St. Louis had outscored Detroit 22-12 and led 3-1. With Games 6 and 7 to be played in St. Louis and Bob Gibson set to start the series' final game, things did not look good for the Tigers. Mickey Lolich started in Game 5 and immediately let up 3 runs. Norm Cash hit a sacrifice fly in the 4th inning, and Willie Horton hit a triple. Jim Northup drove in Horton with a single to cut the Cardinals' lead to 3-2. The Cardinals had a chance to score another run in the 5th inning, but Lou Brock couldn't beat the tag of catcher Bill Freehand. With the bases loaded in the 7th inning, Al Kaline drove in 2 runs to give Detroit a 4-3 lead. Norm Cash drove in another run, and Lolich, who had struggled in the 1st inning, pitched brilliantly for the rest of the game. The final score was Detroit 5, St. Louis 3. Denny McLain started Game 6 on only 2 days' rest. McLain pitched a complete game and gave up 9 hits but only 1 run. Willie Horton and Bill Freehand each drove in a run in the 2nd inning to give the Tigers an early lead. Jim Northup belted a grand slam in the 3rd inning and Detroit exploded for 10 runs. Al Kaline added a home run in the 5th inning and the Tigers cruised to a 13-1 victory to tie the series 3-3. In Game 7, Mickey Lolich got the start on 2 days' rest, while Gibson started for St. Louis on 3 days' rest. After 6 scoreless innings, the Tigers finally got through to Gibson. Norm Cash and Willie Horton singled, and then Jim Northup hit a shot deep to center, where Cardinals center fielder Curt Flood misjudged the ball. Cash and Horton scored, and then Bill Freehand drove in Northup with a double. After 7 complete innings, the Tigers led 3-0. Don Wirt drove in another run in the 9th inning to make it 4-0. Cardinals third baseman Mike Shannon hit a solo home run in the 9th inning. It was the only run St. Louis could score off series MVP Mickey Lolich, who allowed only 5 hits. Lolich pitched 3 complete games and allowed only 5 runs. For the next 15 seasons, the Tigers would only reach the postseason 1 time, losing to the Oakland Athletics 3-2 in the 1972 American League Championship Series. In 1984, the Tigers won their 4th World Series trophy. If you're interested in the 1984 team, I did a podcast on that team on March 26th of this year. That will conclude our podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and God bless.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You could be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.